says mind your manners. Careful what you do. You aren't a little monkey living in a zoo.
Wow.
No
This morning on Today's
elbows
Tech,
on the table.
online etiquette.
No
We all know
chewing
the importance
with
of
a
good
view.
manners. But what are the rules of the road in cyberspace? Today, national correspondent Jenna Wolf was actually wondering if there are any. So what'd you find out?
I did find out there are some. Two-thirds, actually, of all Internet users out visited a social networking site in the past year. But are all of them behaving properly? We checked in with some users for their thoughts.
It's a tricky place to be because it's so new. It's hard to understand what is right and what is wrong.
So what are the rules of social networking? There's friending, defriending, there's ignoring and blocking. What's the etiquette here? Let's pose the question and see what people have to say.
I feel really guilty saying no to someone because there is that pressure.
James has a little perspective here. He says, I've already survived a divorce, so a defriending should be a walk in the park.
People from high school who have Facebooked me who I wasn't friends with then, and I'm wondering why they want to be my Facebook friend now.
Just because we're Facebook friends doesn't mean we're actually friends. You know, I think some people get mixed up by that.
When it comes to status updates, how much is too much information?
What really gets me about some people on Facebook is that they're willing to air their dirty laundry.
If updates include womenly issues, divorce drama, sex innuendos, doctor updates, I'm not even going to go on. I think she may be onto something.
Oftentimes you'll read them and go, oh my gosh, you would never bring this up in conversation. Why on earth are you telling everyone and their mother?
And what about all these applications? To poke or not to poke? Isn't that the question?
How do you politely tell people to stop sending you all sorts of different things on your profile?
I'm not interested in being poked or having cupcakes thrown at me or being offered certain cocktails. Let's go.
What are the rules when it comes to posting pictures of yourself or of others? Let's ask that. Justin's pretty straightforward. No nudity allowed. I agree.
The photos that people put up where they're out partying all night, and if it's someone that I'm interacting with for business, I don't really need to see that.
I don't think they're intentionally putting up a bad photo of you, but you do have to wonder sometimes. I mean, really, because I've seen pictures and I question, why would you do that to me? You know?
And the list of complaints goes on, but at the end of the day, folks love these sites. They are using them, and they are not giving them up anytime soon.
So which sites are you on?
Yeah, let's not talk about it right
Come
now.
on.
We did that once already, and I got flooded.
Facebook?
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Do you Twitter?
I don't, but I think I'm going to start tweeting right after this.
Oh, there you go. Well,
I'm even using it as a verb, so you know good things are happening.
You want to tweet. In fact, we brought in Kirsten Dixon, who is an online reputation management expert, to try to help us out here. Kirsten, good to see you.
Thanks.
Okay, first of all, how do these sites differ? You've got Facebook, the main ones, Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, and LinkedIn. How do they differ?
Well, really, you know, if you're concerned about your professional reputation and not getting into trouble personally online, you really want to start with LinkedIn, especially if you're in a job search or concerned about your career management.
That one's less social, right?
Absolutely. You know, you can get into a little bit of trouble by, you know, trying to connect with people maybe you shouldn't, who aren't really your contacts in LinkedIn, and that's about it. But otherwise, it's basically like an online resume.
Do you find that with some of these websites or some of these social networking sites, people are more free to sit and say what they want to say or type what they want to type when they're sitting behind a keyboard that they normally wouldn't do if they were, you know, in real life?
Absolutely, because I think there's a feeling of being a little bit more anonymous online. You know, it's important to take real-world etiquette and apply it to your online activities. We would never think of calling our long-lost high school sweetheart who's now married, but we might friend them on Facebook.
So what about the idea, a lot of these folks say, well, I'm not on any of these networks. I don't have to worry about it. But you say there's something where people have an online identity.
That's right. You know, we are all being researched online, whether we like it or not, and we have to control what people find. So people who don't really know us in real life, you know, to them, we are our online identities.
So for years, we always worried about in school or wherever we were what our reputation is. But now there's a new thing to think about, and that's what's your online reputation. And you say there's a couple questions you should ask, starting with how do I want to be known, right?
Right. How do I want to be known? Because we need to first, before we communicate anything online, determine what our personal brand is. You know, how do we really want to be remembered?
Well, here's one, the etiquette for Facebook. You know, you get somebody wants to friend you, and you don't want to be friended. What do you do?
Yeah, well, you can ignore the request if you don't know the person, and that's perfectly acceptable to do. But if you do know the person, then you really want to avoid having them feel like they're being rejected. I was recently rejected by a real colleague that I know, and she sent me a very lovely note explaining that she uses Facebook for her very personal social connections, and I really fell outside of her connection criteria.
How'd that make you feel?
It was fine. It was absolutely fine because she did it so well.
Yeah, Al, on the other hand, did not when I tried to friend him. He's like, I'm sorry, I just don't like you, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
I called you and told you
you told me that. And that message went on for like 4.5 minutes, by the way. I had no more time. What about if the tables were reversed? What if I invited you to be my friend, a week goes by and I don't hear from you? Can I call you on it? Am I allowed to ask you, or is this one of those things where what happens online should stay online?
Yeah, if we're really friends, you can easily ask me about it. But, otherwise, I think you should always presume positive intent. Know that maybe, I'm really busy and I just haven't had a chance to get back to you, or maybe just know that you fall outside of my criteria for connecting.
What do you do if somebody puts something you don't really approve of on your wall, or they post a photo that you're not crazy about? Is there anything you can do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing is to delete it, if it's offensive. And I think the next thing is to, call the person or send them a direct message. Definitely don't retaliate and go write something back on their wall. And, just explain that I'm using this for my professional purposes, and I want to be politically correct, and I appreciate you not doing that in the future.
I'm using this for professional purposes.
Stop it. Kirsten Dixon, thank you. And you can find, I'm unfriending you. You can find more on this topic at todayshow.com.